Okay, so I'm thank you, Lethality, for the little bit of a break here.
That's all right.
We left off on, so we have three NPCs right now that we can we have three NPCs that can help funnel several of the guilds together. With the Demir representing three, Boros representing two, so there's five. Azorius is six. That leaves four others, but you know what? Not everything. Volvo, thank you very much for that host. Not everything has to be represented or actively brought up. So I'm actually quite happy with these as some major NPCs, at least that are guild related. And I think what we can do is as we talk about the environment, right? These people have to get food from somewhere, water. That they have to have disposal of their garbage or bodily waste or things like that. Let's talk about the setting, and then we can make a couple more NPCs that are guildless, or that are
Yep.
they may be affiliated, but they're not a guild representative. It's just that, hey, I'm a working Joe in the Rakdos Guild. I'm not asking for this trouble. I'm trying to make ends meet. And I got these Orzov's people, knocking on my door when I'm working every day and I'm trying to set stuff aside.
Yeah. It's like I'm just a blue collar guy trying to do a blue collar job, and I'm getting bothered by these church people.
That's right.
I mean, I'm not really a religious man myself.
Meanwhile, he's hiding his cultist robes in the closet as he's answering the door.
Yep.
Okay. So let's talk about our setting. What kind of a biome within Ravnica would we like to have this set? We can. It could be anywhere. It could be. I imagine there are actually parts of the city that are guildless themselves, or is every part of the city claimed by a faction?
um, a lot of it is the with the guilds. Their reach is very far. It spreads very very far.
Okay.
As for a setting, what I would suggest is, for a lot of the poorer people, the city of Ravnica has been built on top of itself and on top of itself and on top of itself, and as such, there's a yeah. If you listen to his songs backwards, you can hear Rakdos. Yeah, Rakdos himself speaking through him. I think that's absolutely wonderful. But no, what I would do is, because the Ravnica is a city that's been built on top of itself.
Okay.
You could have the setting be in the Undercity of Ravnica.
Okay.
Which is where a lot of the darker people hang out, and I will actually send you when my Firefox wants to work.
Aha. Okay. I'll move this out to my main monitor tab. Whoops. So while the Golgari themselves might not be directly involved, it looks like we might be into some Golgari territory with the Undercity, or what did you have in mind conceptually? There's a lot of really good art here for this.
Yeah. Well, basically, I imagine it's like it's the dark greens and blues, and it's a lot of very filtered natural light.
Okay.
So there's a lot of things that go on down here. I said, the Rakdos love to have their murder parties. The Orzhov sell things to people. the Dimir offer their services, and it could be that in the Undercity they'd be very close to places like Zvogthos and even Duskholm as well, the guild hall of the Dimir, which is hidden somewhere in the Undercity. Yeah, you deal with the very dark, shady undersides of Ravnica. It's not all pretty tall spires glittering in the sunlight and beautiful airships and things like that for them. It's dark, it's dank, it's not squalor, but it's not what you would consider to be upper class living.
Yeah. Okay. I as you're speaking, I'm clicking through some of the art that's come up on the tab that you provided, so we can start getting a feel for the scenery, perhaps for some of the characters that we'll find down here.
Yeah. You'd also get like you'd find a lot of rot stuff, so you'd probably find quite a large amount of Golgari influence. Some of the more natural light places might actually be Orzhov claimed land, of which they've built their churches on, and I believe there's actually a picture, if you scroll down a little bit, of a Orzhov basilica. It's basically a stained glass tower with which natural light shines on through. And I said I imagine that the very few places where natural light shines down here in the Undercity is the places where the Orzhov have built their churches to be the beacon of light for the common man.
Yeah, they can afford glass.
They can afford glass.
I guess in Magic, or at least in the state that Ravnica is in currently, glass might not be as expensive, but keep that in mind. If you're playing I guess more of a standard D&D Western European medieval setting, glass is expensive. Rich people have glass.
Yeah, normal people have wooden shutters.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm looking for the stained glass. I don't see it offhand, but I think you provided a good description.
Actually, if you look up the card Godless Shrine...
Oh, Godless Shrine! Yeah.
Yeah. In fact, the art of Godless Shrine is the... But, yeah, basically, they would have basilicas there, with multicolored stained glass, of which the few bits of natural light shine through.
There it is. Yep.
This aura of, just this aura of majesty, almost.
Yep.
And because those kinds of those kinds of pictures and whatnot are they're the kinds of things that the Orzhov really look for, because they try their best to be the light in a darkened world, but their light comes with a price, as does everything they offer.
Yeah. Okay, so we have. Let's bring this up. So we're in an Undercity portion. It may not be the specific territory of a guild, but it tends to be dark, damp.
All of the black aligned guilds
overgrown.
Love it down there.
Black aligned guilds thrive. Which I guess works, because that's where I would imagine if we're assigning, I mean, we said neutral evil for the alignment of our two PCs that we made last week. If we were to give them colors, I can see black being in both of their colors. Like if they're not mono black creatures, then
I would probably say black-white, because of their entire thing of protection. Because it's like they're doing their protection selfishly. It's very, very selfish, and black is the color of selfishness. But they're also doing selfless things for the selfish nature, which is why I would say both of them would probably be white-black. A lot of creatures are a bit more complicated than that.
Yeah.
So, for example, in the terms of the warlock, I would probably chuck in a bit of blue, depending on the kinds of like just having a look at that that personality trait that the warlock has of
we aren't heroes. We need to do what needs to be done. You'll never thank us, but you should.
No, just that I have a plan for everything.
Oh, gotcha. All right.
Yeah, that's very much a blue thing. So I would definitely say that your warlock would be white, black, blue. I'm very incredibly slow to trust. There's a spark of good in everyone. And an innocent person is in prison for a crime that I committed. I'm okay with that. That's very much it's very much almost a lawful thing. In that they're very strategic. It seems they're very strategic. They like to think things through, and that's very much a Dimir thing. Because because Demirs have plans upon plans upon plans and machinations upon machinations. So much so that sometimes even most of the lower ranked members of the Dimir don't even know what's going on and only get let in on the big stuff on a need to know basis.
Okay. I like that. I don't disagree. I think it would actually be fun to give them colors in a sense, or there's actually a Magic the Gathering card builder. We won't do it tonight, but to actually make these as characters. I like the black-blue aspect of Byra, who's our Loxodon. And I almost want to say black-red for Winifred here, the Toxic Ray, just due to her passions for freedom. She protects those who can't protect herself. Like, she may not be Rakdos, but these are kind of impulsive, passionate things.
Yeah. She's neutral evil, but tends towards chaos, whereas your other Byra is neutral evil that tends towards law.
And yeah, and we could even say, well, that's partially. Look, we have a Loxodon, which in lore would be more of a lawful bend anyway. And here we have a Simic hybrid, which is just a jumble of parts.
Which they very much, if they fall out of Simic's hands, the Combine's hands, do very much tend towards chaos.
Yeah. Gold Public, thank you very much for that host. And let me catch up in chat here real quick. McCoolman, did I read your previous message for your... What about a town in where it's a break of war with Orc, and the Orc are... Oh, you mean on the brink of war with elves? That's a good basic, that's a good backdrop. You can, and there's a lot of things that you can do within that. You can participate in the war, you can defend, you can attack, you can run supplies, you can infiltrate and be a spy. That's not a bad concept to start with, McCoolman. Victor, if you want to describe what you're going through in your encounter generation, you're welcome to do so. Hey Flannel Pug, thank you for joining in. Then I was here indeed. Flannel, it was good watching you play some Dead by Daylight. I hope you're able to go on and survive for many rounds and build your blood web. I know that sounds absolutely horrible and disgusting, but it is Dead by Daylight, and so that's par for the course. The babies will win, says Flannel. Okay, I think we're here. I'm going to get some good Undercity music going. In fact... Thematically, tabletop audio has almost a whole section dedicated to a city portion like this. Let me find it. I think they call it the Spire. Yeah, Spire, the Heart, Amaranth, New Heaven, Derelictus, the Ministry, and the Hatchery. So let's go to... Let's see. The Heart is a rotting hole in reality buried at the center of the mile-high ancient building that is the Spire. Derelictus, a rundown sump of a place riddled with poverty and black magic. Undercity, home to the downtrodden dark elves. Let's play this. That sounds appropriate. Okay. All right, so we are building our Undercity. Overgrown, black-lined guilds thrive, and we could throw in that, you know, there are points of light. There would be a an Orzhov chapel. There would be, actually looking at the cards here, there could be a sacred foundry of the Boros down here or something. You know, that is that the Gruul are selling compost or like peat moss or something too to fire the forges.
That would, like, if they're selling, if people are selling plant matter, that would probably be more the Golgari than the Gruul. And
we do want an ecology and an economy both.
Yes. Well, as far as the ecology goes, animals would be the Gruul's deal, and plant, like, because there's not a lot of natural light, you'd be dealing with a lot of funguses and molds and things like that, which is very much a Golgari thing.
All right, so for the ecology, it's probably more in the Golgari style, as we're describing. You know, kind of everything's kind of worn down. There's moss growing and fungus, and it was even brought up that the Golgari do feed poor people with the vegetables and stuff that they grow. They actually have a civic duty.
Yes, all of the guilds do. Even the Gruul clans. Back when Ravnica was a place of nature and covered in trees and forests and whatnot, they were created as the basically as park rangers. They're rangers and beast tamers and game keepers.
Then let's discuss the a broad, like a one-sentence description of the economy. We talked about this is probably a poorer section. Do people work for a foundry? Do people work on the rot farms? Do people? Is this industrial? Is this task-driven with weavers and other sort of skilled or unskilled trades?
Oh, very, very much so. Very much a task-based thing. There'd be people working on the rot farms, probably an Is-It worker here or there maintaining the steam vents and boiler works. There are probably some people working on the foundry, but maybe not for the Boros, as it could very easily be that the foundry down there was taken from the Boros, as does happen when guilds vie for power.
And wait, and who are you proposing is running the foundry then?
It could very, very easily be an Orzhov individual who took it in the name of the church. As DJ Delta just said, a lot of the economy all over Ravnica runs through the Orzhov. They're the ones who love to deal with money and things to do with money. So most of the economy would go through either the Orzhov or, in the various particular cases of food and less legal services, through the Golgari and the Dimir.
Okay. So it sounds like then, if I can reword it slightly, it sounds like that this is an area that it's really unskilled labor, menial tasks, and maintenance. It's the just getting by stuff. It's the if you die in the forge, you can be replaced because it was really just your job to pull a lever and pour the bucket, or it was your job to harvest the fungus. And you know, if you catch a disease and die, well, anyone can harvest fungus, as long as you're not dead.
Basically, anyone can take your place, and you know what? They're probably not even going to move you because you'd make good mulch for the fungus.
Okay. Actually, that's true. You might even be almost indentured by the Golgari, where you know your family will be fed, but you're gonna feed the crops when you're done also.
Exactly right.
Because the Golgari aren't necessarily nice. I guess no guild is nice, but they do their civic duty, but they're not good guys. They're not Robin Hood. They're not, I don't know, some beneficent farmer that's just giving away what they have. In return, I imagine they ask for, well, bodies or other garbage. They ask for labor. They ask for other things like that too.
Yeah, basically, the Golgari take anyone who's willing to serve them and even those who aren't once they die, into their into their fold, because their entire thing is that you're alive, you'll help us. When you die, your body will become mulch, and from your death, new life will grow.
Yeah.
The Golgari are very, very heavy on the cycle of rebirth, of death creates life. It's that kind of thing that makes the Golgari very, very interesting. Unfortunately, due to that, they also have a very long history of guildmasters who have stabbed the previous guildmaster in the back. Yeah, exactly right, DJ Delta. The Golgari guild, like the Swarm, could be very much seen as a set of spore druids, as Circle of the Spores druids. They're the kind of druids who deal with the rot and the fungus and everything like that, whereas your more classical plant-based druids deal with your Selesnya types.
Then how about this? If you had to choose a Ravnica land to represent our neighborhood, our starting area, perhaps some architecture, what do you think you'd have it be?
It would probably be things along the lines of overgrown tomb, godless shrine, steam vents.
I get the spread, but if you had to choose one to use, not that we can't visit other locales, but how would you summarize? How would you summarize where the bulk of our adventure is going to take place, or at least the culture and our anti-heroes are rooted in this location, even as they go and explore outside of their comfort zones in the rest of Ravnica?
Probably Godless Shrine then.
Okay.
As it would be built, there are buildings and houses and markets and things like that. But a lot of the structural maintenance down there is done. Yeah. Basically, a lot of the stuff there would have been restored by the Orzhov, basically commissioning workers, engineers from the Izzet to rebuild.
And so maybe this is why a lot of the neighborhood owes the Orzhovs, and that could be the point of contention.
Oh yes, very, very, very much so. That, you know, the Orzhov kind of have this grip on this community of we built your community. We built the buildings you live in. We built your houses. And they aren't yours. We allowed you to live in them, but they are not yours. They are ours. They are still ours. And G&D T-Chops just said, everyone and everything has a price. That is the way of the Orzhov Syndicate, which is very, very, it's very much correct.
Okay. Okay, so I bring this up, not that we can't visit, you know, rot farms and all the other stuff, but if we can get a single image in our mind, often that's a good way to root ourselves, to keep our own, to keep track of where we want the story to go, or we use it to remember who our characters are, and we can always draw back to their roots in order to help stay in character or to present them conflicts, challenges, opportunities that that they may be willing to take up.
Yeah. With the Orzhov villains, Okay. So just as a aside, sorry to cut that off.
It's fine.
I need to swap over to my phone, so I'm going to need to slide that in very quickly.
Yeah, do what you have to. If you got to disconnect for a little bit, you know how to come back.
So, yep, just give me just a second.
Victor's giving us a play-by-play for the game that he's currently running. So thank you for that, Victor. So now that we have our setting and lethality is reconnecting and such here, we have...
There we go.
Oh, we're good now?
Yep, we're
All
good.
right. What I like is to head back, and while we've named another guild as an NPC, even if it's our BBEG or just as a concept, if not, you know, some Orzhov tax collector or something along those lines. What I'd like to do is discuss what are a couple NPCs that we can develop inside the neighborhood that are either guildless or they may belong to a guild, but they're not representatives. They're not speaking with any guild authority. They might just be affiliated because of employment or something along those lines.
They might just be your regular member, because a lot of the regular members of the guild don't have the authority to speak on the guild's behalf. It's usually the higher ups who get to do that.
Mm-hmm.
So or, you know, elected authorized representatives in the case of a lot of the more lawful guilds, such as the Azorius, the Boros, and the Dimir. So with this, it could be like DJ, like named MTG characters, like the named NPCs, among, you know, some of our own. So for example, as just your average Joe Rakdos affiliated, just general run of the mill Rakdos affiliated cultist who's basically his entire thing is that he works a blue collar job, and he works a blue collar job and just does his thing. You know, he doesn't really want to get involved with a lot because of the simple fact of, you know, if he pokes his head up too much, then he might end up getting an invitation in the mail to go to one of the Rakdos' murder parties. Which, well, hey, if you go to a Rakdos murder party, well, there's no guarantee that you won't end up dead. Another one that I could think of is, whilst is it scientists do get quite a large amount of money, some of them are poorer or decide to go into the poorer sections in order to do experiments and things like that away from the normal populace, the populace that are, you know, if they really did hurt from some kind of vanquish, basically some kind of experimental accident that basically people that people wouldn't miss, and that he wouldn't get harped on by both his superiors in the Izzet League or by the Azorius and Boros for hurting. Izzet is one of those very, very strange guilds that's both lawful neutral and chaotic neutral at the same time. They love spontaneity, they love accidents, so long as there's something to be learned from it.
Okay. So we have two kind of slots for NPCs that have been developed. We have Average Joe Rakdos Worker. What would his role as an NPC be? Is he the one who does he coordinate the donations or the payments to the two ladies to pay this insurance? Does he is he helpful? Does he hinder them?
It could be that he's helpful in the sense of because you'd need an NPC available, especially in something that very much hinges on the feelings of a lot of NPCs at once. So, like a Rakdos representative, you know, he might be the representative. He might be who the, you know, your normal like your normal blue-collar workers. He might be who they picked to, you know, go to our two anti-heroines, as it were, and say, you know, this is how we're doing. This is the state of the address for us blue-collar workers who are, you know, kind of serve the Rakdos, and like, you know, here's our payment for all of the blue-collar facilities down here. So, you know, your all of your very menial tasks.
Give me 1 second here. I'm addressing McCoolman here.
Fair enough.
All right, so we have our Average Joe Rakdos Worker. His voice can represent that of many people in the neighborhood. As he talks to the ladies, as he feeds them information, probably tells them about the grumbles and the strife, and you know, hey, these people are trying to shake us down, and this is what's happening. Different than the he's going to be different than the Dimir facilitator. Not that the Dimir can't give him information, but he's going to give them the word on the street. The Dimir can give them the word from the shadows. The word from above, you know, what are the upper echelons talking about? And so I think this does create a unique slot for him as an NPC, because we don't want to have too many redundant ones.
Oh, exactly right. You don't want to, especially for a campaign that is in a massive city like this, and where NPCs are very important. Yeah, no, one of the things that you do want to avoid is the entire thing of too many NPCs that all do the same thing. As you said, redundant NPCs is the thing that you want to avoid.
Yeah.
So you want to make sure that you can consolidate as much as you can without packing too much in.
Yes.
Into the things, and just generally making that happen.
Then what would we like to do? So you also mentioned that we have this kind of maybe a rogue question. Is it scientist? Is this someone who came down here and is escaping is escaping the Izzets, either with a secret, or he knows too much, or he would have been chosen for an experiment. Is he in retirement? Is this a young guy or girl? What are your thoughts regarding this NPC and the functions that it would perform?
With that, I would say that that the main thing would be that the Izzet don't really chase down those who know too much. Like knowing too much is kind of a thing that they celebrate in the Izzet. And those who really do strike, who have the fancy, who have the very, very different mindsets. I'm actually going to pull a little reference from Psychopaths here if anyone's seen it. Those who would be classed as criminally asymptomatic, those who break the mold with the way that they see things, is very much celebrated in the Izzet and would be invited to work alongside Niv Mizzet himself, the Perun and Guildmaster of the Izzet League, on the big stuff. This NPC, I imagine that he's come down here to perform some experiments that the Izzet don't frown upon the experiments, but the experiments themselves are dangerous, and that for reasons given by both the Azorius and the Boros, he or she, I'll say she, has come down here to basically perform these experiments, and in a place where if things do go really pear-shaped,
okay,
that you know, the only people it's gonna hurt are people that nobody's gonna miss. Basically, that's actually a bit more of the Boros and Azorius kind of dark side showing through. Of they don't particularly care for the common folk, because the common folk aren't the ones who the common folk aren't the ones who populate their halls.
Is this going to be then maybe not the last boss kind of villain, but are we setting this person up to be a foil or an antagonist or a villain to our anti-heroes? What do you see her doing?
Probably not, actually. What I see her doing is maybe providing like a more chaotic version of a prompt, fulfilling a very similar role to the other NPC in that for those in the white collar jobs, in the science and engineering style jobs, that she would provide the what's the word on the street, as it were, for that, as well as providing not only a little bit of comic relief, but also a little bit of this thing to the party where, you know, they might have gotten a piece of information from an Azorius, from their Azorius source, their guide, as it were, and, you know, they go and ask her, you know, what's the deal on the street with, you know, the scientists and the engineers? She tells them, and then, you know, she might just chuck a little extra thing in there that doesn't cast doubt on what the Azorius person has said, but makes them think more about the kinds of things that they're doing. Not so much as a full-on questioning of is what I'm doing right or wrong, or more a matter of, well, now that she said that, maybe we could go about what we're trying to do in a different way. Kind of like a broadening of like someone who broadens their horizons, as it were.
So not a quest giver, but someone who might propose an alternative methodology to completing the task at hand.
Yes.
Okay.
because I know I've had it in a lot of my campaigns where like I've given them the quest and they've had an idea on what to do, and they've come across an NPC who I haven't meant it to happen like this, but just as what the character would say is that well hey, you know, you're trying to do this and you've told me you want to do it like this. You could also do it like this, and that might provide a you know, a better spin on things. It might provide a different, well, the same outcome that you're looking for, but the extras of that outcome might be different. So, for example, say, you know, one of the little things that they need to do is, I mean, they're evil. Maybe they might blow up an Orzhov Basilica. You know, they need to deal with the Orzhov Basilica.
Yeah.
And like as a church, and you know, it could be that the Azorius is like, you know, subtly, like, their others also might be like, you know, subtly plant some hints here and there that bring the Boros in. And bring the Boros in to basically take them out of the picture. But the Izzet person might suggest, have you tried explosives?
Yeah.
Like, basically giving them an alternate. Sometimes it might be more direct, sometimes it might be less direct, depending on, you know, what kind of situation they're in. But basically, somebody who goes like, well, I mean, this will get the same outcome. And give the player, like, if there are players actually playing these PCs, give them, like, choices they have to think about as to how they might go about completing a quest.
Then, I don't know if it's lastly, but I would like to develop some kind of NPC with you that can share some kind of an emotional connection. Because right now, our two PCs have resources and information and access to these people. But I don't think that there's any kind of a sentimental, empathetic, sympathetic, or otherwise emotional attachment to an NPC or a family or something along those lines. What would you like to do to give them some kind of an emotional anchor, a mentor, a loved one, or maybe it's like an old blind grandma that they take pity on? I mean, look, everything is a trope, everything is a stereotype. There's nothing new under the sun, so I don't mind exploring, you know, things along those lines. But you see what I'm saying? I want to give them some kind of an emotional impetus to act as they are, not just a financial one, because it's understandable. It's kind of sterile, and I want to have them. Well, look. When you have something that you can lose because something goes wrong, whether you're keeping it secret or not, having invested in something or someone enough that you would feel tremendous loss or regret or like a hole in your heart, in some form or fashion, can provide for some very good leverage in storytelling as a DM, or especially as a PC, because you can act all cool and calm and detached and yeah, you know, I'll murder, you know, someone in their sleep who's going to threaten my neighborhood, and that's fine because you probably will. But someone is in this neighborhood. I believe. Look, our youngest character between the two is 71 years old. There's probably someone who lives here, or if not someone, there's a family, an institution like an orphanage, or even, I don't know, what if they believe that their local Orzhov Basilica or their little chapel is actually the only good one, and even the, you know, or it's something along those lines. It doesn't have to be that, but you see how I want them to be connected to someone, or something, but someone in the something. Who would you like that to be?
I think the perfect thing that would work for this would be would be something like their local basilica. You know, maybe you know, this local basilica kind of emphasizes, like, whilst they still preach Orzhova, whilst they can still preach the tenets of Orzhova, they might also You know, they might also kind of emphasize more of the white qualities of selflessness and protection over the black qualities of selfishness, and everything has a price. So, you know, maybe sometimes, you know, sometimes if people come in and they need services and they can't afford them, they might just waive the fee, which is for a normal Orzhova Basilica, that's a massive no-no. But they've been covering up for. They've been like this basilica has been covering up just how helpless most of these people are, because that they just can't afford it, and that's how that is. And I think like there's an emotional attachment to maybe the head priest or priestess of this basilica.
Okay.
Like that's the NPC of which they feel that emotional connection, and it could also be that this NPC has provided them emotional support, and because they still do a lot of stuff that you would imagine like the Catholic Church does, like they do confessions and they do absolution of sin and things like that.
Okay.
So it could be that this head priestess is nurtured the PC somewhat, like nurtured the way they do things and things like that.
So we are going to... so we're definitely not going to put them under a guild NPC. They are affiliated with the Orzhov, but I mean so much that average Joe Rakdos is affiliated with Rakdos.
Yeah.
So we have an actually kindly Orzhov priest or priestess. Taught them the value of cooperation, selfless, and that's probably where they. So they're trying to do goodish things, and they're also collecting money for it. So this priestess or this priest or priestess seemingly left an influence, and it has left our characters in this well, it's a gray area, right? White and black or gray. And so they have this attachment. Maybe this Orzhov priest or priestess is retired, or it isn't, or if it's active, what you said, they're kind of, they're protecting the people of this part of the Undercity from the rest of the guild. And it sounds like the guild finally caught up. That could actually put pressure on this priest or priestess and be a good spark to adventure. Because the neighborhood has been noticed. A quote-unquote eviction notice has been placed on a lot of the doors to businesses and families and such. And maybe this priest or priestess is in trouble. You know, was taken captive or even was just killed. But you know, they're not necessarily sad because they know that the ghost has got to be around somewhere, and so maybe they want to go and try and entreat with the ghost, or there's some emotional connection. And you know what? And that would be, I like that because their best friend is technically working for the big bad evil guy that they're actually going to try and take down at the end of the adventure.
Yeah, I think that would work.
Oh, actually, DJ brought up a good point, so I don't think one would ever retire from them. That's true. Heck, maybe the ghost was around the new, was hanging around this Orzhov chapel or whatnot, and they actually befriended the ghost. And the ghost is like, what do I have to lose? Well, obviously, there's a lot you can still lose when it comes down to the Orzhovs. But the ghost could be in jeopardy, and that's actually so they got to know the soul of that person, or they were even around for the person's life, but because they're two long-lived races, it could have been, I don't know, a human or I don't know, a goblin or something. Orzhovs, I think, are they tend to be human and, well, I mean, undead, but an undead is a template you could add onto anything. Was there a particular race associated with Orzhov Guild?
No, the Orzhov, despite some of the races, like race issues that Ravnica does have, Orzhov are actually one of the most welcoming guilds of the lot. They take humans, they take elves, they take Vidalcan, they take everybody.
Okay. Yeah, everyone can provide service in some way.
Yep, exactly right. And a lot of the things is that those in the Orzhov do serve long after death. They have a lot of undead thralls and things like that they use as a as basically as their menial workers and things like that for some of the things that might need to be done. But basically the more work you do, the more likely that the Ghost Council at the end of your life will decide that, you know, you've done so much work for us, we will give you eternal life, as it were. We will give your spirit eternal life, and as such, you know, you can continue to do your amazing work for us.
Yeah. How does, do you know how that works? Is there a place where all the spirits live, or are because there's so many people in Ravnica, are ghosts just everywhere? Like, can you not walk down the street and not see a ghost doing something? And also, how are the ghosts interacting with the physical world?
The way the spirits work is actually very peculiar in that a lot of them will possess thralls and things like that if they do need to interact with the physical world, but a lot of them are resigned to the churches and things like that. You can't just find them walking around willy-nilly.
Okay.
Because those who are usually picked to become spirits are people who have served the Orzhov very well, and they're the kind of beings that are you know, you might find in the basilicas as as guides and as basically the heads of churches and like of particular parishes of these churches. And furthermore, like I said, as you go up the hierarchy in the Orzhov Syndicate, the higher the church you go to, until you eventually find, you know, Orzhova. That there's more and more spirits that, you know, float around inside the church and do deals with people.
Okay.
Because that would be the main prospect of spirits in the Orzhov Syndicate, that they get picked to become basically deal makers, and they make deals with people, whether it be in their particular church, or whether it be in the in Orzhova itself, which is basically what an Orzhov member would consider the big time. Like,
okay.
I get to work in the church, not just a church. I get to work in the church, and that's a big deal.
Okay. Let's see. We have our specific guild NPCs. We have our neighborhood NPCs. We have a setting. We've talked about the ecology, the economy. So something that I think we should bring up too, not just to bring the world to the characters, but the characters to the world. Remember that and this is a general statement, not just to you, Lethality. When you generate a character and you come up with your background and you have your personality traits, your bonds, ideals, and flaws, oftentimes there are seeds of adventure or NPCs that are contained inside that. And actually, Byra has a very obvious one that you brought up earlier, Lethality, and that is an innocent person is in prison for a crime that I committed, and I'm okay with that. Whether or not this is a major NPC, it could still be a part of the world or something that they encounter, And if only once, or it's brought up a couple times, or I don't know, maybe they go and try and spring this person out. But I think that we should... I'm just going to call these, oddly enough, PC NPCs.
So NPCs that are very much related to the character's backstory and things they might have done.
To you, given what we've developed and your knowledge of the world and the things that we've brought up, I want your opinion, Lethality. Who is this person that Byra either set up or framed or something along those lines? He or she doesn't have to be a major influence in the world, but it's still something that exists and could be brought up in order to help ground the character in the story, and not just have them feel like they're on a an on-rail shooter or, you know, some other, you know, like a roller coasters are fun, but you stay on the track and it's always the same ride.
Yeah.
So we need to come up with this innocent person who's in jail for a crime that I committed. And maybe, we might have actually already come up with I'm trying to pay off an old debt I owe to a generous benefactor. That could be that Orzhov connection.
Yeah, no, it very easily could be that, they did owe someone. Maybe that's why they owe them, is because of the fact of, you know, maybe they did something, and this Orzhov connection's been like, I'll make you a deal. I'll take the blame for it, but you owe me.
Okay.
And it could be that the quest to break them out is what they need to do in order to pay off that debt. And I imagine it would be a big decision. Like it would be a very big thing that this person's done. Maybe they killed someone very important. It could be that maybe they managed to bring down, through accident or otherwise, that they've managed to bring down one of the Boros' angels, as all of the angels are very high-ranking members of the Boros. So it could be that, and killing one is very much a slight against the Boros, and the Boros will hunt you down. Like they will become the hunter, and you will become the prey, and they will hunt you down. And I can imagine that the Orzhov person's like, well, I'll take the blame for it, but you owe me. Because that would be a very, very generous thing, because the Boros would not be nice to whoever they found out did that.
All right, and so that was touching on Byra's Bond character. Let's go back to her flaw, where an innocent person is in prison for a crime I committed, and I'm okay with that. I don't know. In Ravnica, I could see jail as a physical place, or I could see jail as this person had a contract with the Orzhov and was killed, and is now in servitude. That's kind of a jail, I guess. As a slave or whatnot. So I think we can look at this in a couple different ways. So what thoughts are coming to your mind regarding this PC NPC?
Well, an innocent person being chucked into jail, it could be that, instead of being, it could actually also be, instead of going into physical jail through the Boros, or into spiritual jail, spiritual slavery through the Orzhov, it could be that someone was thrown to the wolves of the Dimir, and they were put into mental slavery.
Oh.
As the Dimir specialize in thought-scouring magic, and reading, violating, and breaking people's minds. So it could be that, the character found out something that they weren't supposed to about the Dimir. They know too much, and the character panics and goes, it was them. They know it. And the Dimir are just like, seems legit. takes the person away and proceeds to thoroughly mind break them.
Yeah. So, or she took a risk and went. It was him. He did it. And actually, this person knew a good juicy bit of information, or maybe I don't know. He had some other knowledge, and the Dimir took him anyway. And here she's thinking like, "Oh, I'm this master, I'm this master, this master of deception." Or I saved my own skin. I'm fine with that because if they kept him, that guy must have really been a scumbag. And so she's trying to justify it to herself, in order to feel okay with what just happened.
Well, I mean, there's also the entire thing of. She's neutral evil. It wouldn't take a lot of justification. It's just like, better than me. Because neutral evil can tend to be rather selfish. Because you'd be like, oh, well, I'm totally okay with them getting thrown to jail for something that, getting thrown to the Dimir for something that, I did, because I don't want to go through that. They'll break my brain!
Okay, so how about this? She blames someone for a mail theft. So she was going to try and she was trying to intercept a package, and of course the Dimir are couriers and such. So she blames someone else for the mail theft when the Dimir came after investigating, and they took this other person away and hasn't been seen since. And so maybe this other person actually did steal mail, and when they scoured thoughts, that came up. But Byra here, our anti-hero, got away with it and got this other person in jail, and she's like, oh, cool, I guess that's another bad guy off the streets, right? Wink, wink.
Yeah, exactly right.
This could come back to haunt her, even literally.
Yeah, I mean, it could also be that, because she wouldn't, people wouldn't know that, the Dimir took this, innocent NPC away. He would just disappear, and no one would know where he's gone, except for those in the Dimir, and. People who know would be able to make an assumption that, oh, he's done something wrong, and either the Boros have taken him away, he had a contract with the Orzhov, and the Orzhov have taken him away, or he's done something to piss off the Dimir, and the Dimir have taken him away.
Yeah. Whew. Guilds are scary, yo.
Because the Dimir are all about assassins and stuff, they could have thought scoured him, found some juicy bits of information, but not really the thing that they were looking for. Discard him, and maybe he comes back as something like a revenant.
I think that would make for a very good, not a twist in the campaign, but as things are continuing forward, it would be a good speed bump to check the story and to have a part of the character's past catch up with them, and show that there are consequences to your actions. If not immediately, then in the long run for sure. And when you're playing with undead, they have a very, very long window to work with in order to get their revenge, their payment, their whatever they want from you.
Anywhere between now and eternity.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, and I forgot, aberrations are one of their things too. There's what was it? Yeah, there's the spirits.
Consuming aberration.
Yeah.
Consuming aberration for the Dimir is probably what you're thinking.
Yeah, I just saw it around here.
There are. Because the Dimir do love to deal with their horrors and their aberrations. There's things like the Din Rover horror, consuming aberration.
Oh, there's Skittles, Lord of Dimir. At least that's what people around my shop called him, was Skittles, because Skithrix is
Skithrix.
yeah.
Yeah. Unfortunately, Skithrix isn't on Ravnica, or otherwise that would be an absolutely terrifying thing.
Yeah.
But no, things like the Din Rover Horror, Horror of the Dim, Consuming Aberration, Call of the Nightwing, Demir Horror Assassin. Actually, no, that's not a thing. Never mind.
Oh, there's Ashiok.
I mean, Ashiok is also. We don't know where Ashiok comes from. We actually do not know where Ashiok comes from at all. And his entire thing would be at this point in time that he would be making his way towards Theros as we currently speak. Although those other planes would be something to consider if you were going to be running your PCs as planeswalkers, but there's not really enough about that to really do that.
Yeah.
But no, I said especially things like they like their shapeshifters, they like their dark spirits. They like their mind. Their mind screwery. They like their horrors and aberrations, and they're like their skeletons too.
Okay.
Like,
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
Like another one of the things that do happen is that the Demir very much like to play around with the Azorius dispensing of justice in the courtrooms. Especially things like the cards like Twisted Justice, and the flavor text reads as such. In Otiev's mind, he ruled in favor of the accused, but in his courtroom, he was only a spectator, watching his hand deliver the sign of death.
And the cards can be excellent. I mean, heck, if you grab a handful of cards from any of these sets, you could almost play a little game of tarot about where, who exists in the world, what's going on, what's a spell or a character, and you can have a ton of fun with it that way too. Let's see. Winifred is more, I guess, broadly idealistic when it comes to when it comes to her any other like specific NPCs. Her personality traits are: if someone is in trouble, I'm always ready to lend help. I have a strong sense of fair play. Now, mind you, this is from her perspective. She feels that she's fair. Fair play, and always try and find the most equitable solutions to arguments. Her ideal is freedom. Tyrants must not be allowed to oppress the people. I protect those who cannot protect themselves. And a parenthetical phrase at the end I put for a fee. Flaws: I have a weakness for the vices of the city, especially hard drink.
Yeah.
So she doesn't have a particular... she, with how we roll, doesn't have a particular NPC that she is asserting into the world by her own existence. However, being the folk hero number 9, let me go check that out real quick and remind myself which one that was. Chapter 4 backgrounds. 9 is: a celestial fae or similar creature gave me a blessing or revealed my secret origin. So that could be that could be this ghost NPC, this Orzhov mentor. Maybe when she died, she was put on this path and had this greatness revealed to her. Unless you want to say something like, it says a celestial. What if she was visited as a little girl actually by a Boros angel and was told, you should do great things for society, and almost giving the, fight for justice and the things that you think are correct. But here she is now. She's older. She's 107 years old. She's no longer that starry-eyed, you know, youthful 30-year-old, whatever she was before she was mutated. We kind of base it off of half-elves, because that's what they kind of are. They're kind of blue-skinned-ish half-elves.
If we're referring to the Vidalcan, then yes.
Yeah, yeah. Because it describes them as half human, half elf, half Vidalcan, and you wonder where that extra 50% is, and it's in there somewhere. Actually, you know what then? It's not in her back. Well, it's not in those parts of the background, but we can come up with who is this celestial fae or similar creature that set her on this path to be who she is today. Even if it is a perverted sense of it, where if we wanted it to be the Boros Angel, well, she's obviously not in the Boros League. She's not a Wojak. And you know, she's not working for the White and Red. But maybe that instilled something in her heart. What kind of a person would you say would put her on this folk hero path to where we find the snapshot of her character sheet today?
So with that, we could do a couple of different things. Like you could have it that yes, she was visited by a Boros Angel, and yeah, no, she most definitely doesn't work for the red, white, and gold. But
yeah. Oh, I like that even better. Yeah.
And you know, it could also be that even though she was instilled to do what she considers to be the right thing, it could be that basically that, you know, she maybe she was visited by a Boros Angel, maybe she was visited by the Fae kind of bit falls under Selesnya.
Do we want it?
It may not necessarily even be a Celestial or a Fae. It could be just about anything of power. It could be that she was an Orzovan spirit did take interest in her.
Yeah, some greater powered outsiders, I think is what they're just hinting at. Some vast outside knowledge or power revealed something to her that set her on this path.
Yeah. Basically some kind of outsider who is revealed this kind of information. I think because she's neutral evil, it could be that she was visited by a good outsider like a Fae or Celestial, and then she's seen the darker sides of the guilds that are supposed to be good, and is like, oh no, screw that, I'll make my own path. Or she might have been visited by something evil, or it could be that as I said, an Orzovan spirit, a high-ranking Orzovan spirit had taken interest in her, or that, or it could be that one of the dragons under the Izzet League, as that's where most of the dragons go, as they're very learned creatures in Ravnica. Ravnican dragons they're very, very big knowledge seekers. It could be that a Ravnican dragon was like, you know, learn about the world and its bits, and then when she does, and she decides that she doesn't particularly like it all that much. Or it could be that something evil like a demon, as Rakdos is full of them, basically came to her and was like, Now, girlie, you can see that this world is screwed up, and you know what you should do? Burn it all down. And whilst you know, there are many creatures that could act as this outsider. In fact, I would be very much inclined to just roll a dice for it.
Pneumonica brought up a point. I'm still wondering. The text says this great thing revealed her true nature. It doesn't say this true nature was revealed to her. To whom was it revealed? We can look at it that way. I mean, we can look at it either way. If this is fantasy, it's our world, and we can do what we want. Nanner, nanner, nanner.
I mean, I would say it would be to her as this character's the Simic hybrid, yes?
Yes.
Yeah. So it could be that someone did reveal that to her. Someone this being's like, you know, you're basically what's considered a freak of nature, right? You're bits and pieces of bits stuck together by the Simic.
Well, or before she subjected herself to Simic experiments, what if she was an elf, or something, and a force came to her and said, if you want to be better, you have to make yourself better. Make yourself better. Make yourself better. Make yourself better. And suddenly that make yourself better led her to kind of sell her body to science. Just not the is it variety.
Like,
and
it's just like I think that works perfectly. Like it's like make myself better. Make myself better. Turns to the Simic. Evolution.
Out of curiosity, wasn't there some kind of as part of the Guild Pact's magic, wasn't there some kind of a spirit of the Guild Pact or an avatar of the Guild Pact that represented them all in front of this great seal, or you know, this wall that bore all of the symbols on it? I'm trying to remember if something like that existed. DJ saying it's Jace.
That hasn't happened yet. That has not happened yet.
Although, you know, even if it's not Jace specifically, what if a planeswalker visited her? Whether a native one to Ravnica, or one that just kind of came by and was visiting and could have been mistaken for a fae or an outsider or a celestial because of the otherworldly nature.
Yeah, actually, that would be very, very, very useful. At this point in time, actually, it might have been Jace, because Jace was still on Ravnica at that point in time. It might have also, like when you start getting into planeswalkers, that's when you start dealing with, you start dealing with the things like, named characters. And Delta, no. No. Tybalt can go die in a hole.
Hey, we have tieflings, right? This is D&D.
It's like, we have tieflings, but we don't talk about Tybalt. we don't talk about him.
Maybe maybe that's why it's all the more appropriate if we wanted to go with this planeswalker bend. We're dropping a name, but it's not like people like, oh, it's Jace, and suddenly it's the Jace D&D campaign.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be, but you know, for consideration purposes, it's kind of a fun, kind of a nod and a wink. But it could be, there's Vraska even. You want to talk about an interesting planeswalker mentor?
Yeah, Vraska, or this character has a more chaotic bent, and Vraska kind of tends to keep things more on the down low. Maybe the Izzet Chemister and Time Mage Ralzarek.
Oh, was he in the first? He was the blue-red planeswalker, right? And,
he wasn't.
Oh, go ahead.
He wasn't a major role in the first. Like, he didn't have a card because no planeswalkers had cards back then. First planeswalker cards were Morrowind, which was a couple of years later. But Ralzarek was definitely a figure within the Izzet League, as he was studying things like interplanar transport and things like that. That had it hadn't caught Niv Mizzet's attention yet, but he was and still is a higher ranking scientist, and I believe his spark was still he had his spark, like his spark had been ignited at that time. I will just very quickly look that up.
Was he the one in the Magic comic series that it kind of featured him for a little while?
No, that is Dak Faden.
Dak Faden, okay.
Comes from he is a thief.
Yeah. Which, I don't know, that could be interesting.
So Ral Zarek, he's native to Ravnica, and he's a higher-ranking guild mage devoted to the Izzet League. While he has ascended, he's managed to hide this fact from Niv Mizzet, an impressive task in and of itself. He's never looked to the Ancient Dragon as a role model or mentor, but as a nuisance at best and a likely adversary at worst. A lot of the stuff that happens with him does happen in the second. Like, his lifetime is unknown, and nobody knows about when his thing actually went up, but he was the chief researcher investigating the ancient codes laid out in the 10th district, the ley lines of the secret that made up the implicit maze that so fascinated Niv Mizzet so much.
So he was working in the background this whole time. Like he was keeping it cool, laying low. His spark ignited, but he was even able to hide it from Niv Mizzet himself. That could be an interesting outsider that could have, I don't know, revealed a nature. Let's take a look at his card. Oh, hang on. I want to make sure I'm finding the actual card and not a fan one. Or in his description, like what his general abilities are, what they do. Tap target permanent, then untap another target permanent. Ral Zarek deals 3 damage to target creature or player. Flip 5 coins, take an extra turn after this one for each coin that comes up heads. That's pretty good.
Yeah, no, he's just he's a random hodgepodge of the 3 things that Izzets like most. Like transmutation and changing stuff around magic. Manipulation of the forces of the primal forces of time and other things, and blowing stuff up.
Yeah.
Usually via lightning bolts. Ral's entire thought process is that, like, if he was to mentor someone, it would be to, like, if you want to better things, you need to better yourself. You need to learn. You need to sit, and you need to think things through. And like for this particular character, you know, their mind might have been like, you know, I need to make myself better. I need to think things through. Because this character is was probably born at getting closer to the height of the like as things slowly began to ramp up for the first Ravnica block, like when the Guild Pact was first dissolved. You know, it could be that, you know, she was born around the time that cytoplasts and things began to become a thing. They began, you know, the beginning of the development of them, and she was alive when, like, she was, you know, 29, 30 years old, or whenever it was that she was changed, when the cytoplasts began doing things, when the Civic began to really hard sell their thing of, you want to make yourself better? Come to us. We've got the solution for you. Suddenly
this has turned into BioShock, and they're selling plasmids.
Basically, that's basically what the Civic were doing. It was basically like BioShock, selling things to make the betterment of people, but with a very, very dark agenda. Well, not necessarily dark agenda. It was an agenda that, whilst good-hearted, it was meant well. It was very much twisted by the machinations of House Demir.
Just as a heads up, in case you were curious, this is the internet, and there are several, even safe for work, pictures of a gender-swapped Ral Zarek. So if you want to see Femme Zarek, it's a thing. There are several up here that are, look, it's the internet. You're going to find this stuff everywhere. And you know what? So I kind of like this idea then, because Ral isn't, he is a planeswalker mechanically. I think he has some solid mechanics, but if she were to describe, because he might not have even said his name. He could have just been, you know, a wise person who is steeped in I don't know, magical lore or something, you know, has a winning smile. And you look and you're describing, okay, so there's like, I don't know, a 5.5 foot tall male human with short hair, mostly brown, and is wearing blue clothes. And kind of like the picture that's up here, if we're having a meta conversation with our player, right, and you say, okay, don't tell the other player or anything along those lines, or if there's, let's just entertain that there are 5 people in this party or something. Don't tell everyone else, but I want you to describe that your mentor is like a middling height male human of slender build that is wearing blue clothes and has short hair. And people are going to freak out and go, it's Jace, you talked to Jace, you talked to Jace. What was his name? Was it Jace? I bet it was Jace. Have you talked to Jace? And meanwhile, like in the card comparison... I don't know what his name was. Yeah, he was just a very wise man, you know, very well versed in magic, you know, blue magic even. I don't know if that meta knowledge exists in the MTG universe, but...
Not to the normal people.
Okay.
Right? Yeah, between Planeswalkers, yes. So in a Planeswalker campaign, the entire thing of blue mana would exist.
Yeah.
But like your normal everyday people aren't gonna know stuff about that.
Yeah.
I think the really funny thing is that if it was Jace, it could just be that he left that little tidbit there for her and wiped the rest from her mind, because that's a Jace thing to do.
That would be, but I don't know. I think Jace is kind of a busy dude.
Jace is a very busy dude.
Okay, so are you digging this? Is we're making a campaign by collaboration here? Do you want to have sort of a quasi anonymous Ral Zarek be her I set you on the path and I give you advice kind of a thing?
Yeah, basically.
Okay.
But no, I'm like, if like in a different world, if we were to say use yeah, actually, that is a thing too with basing campaigns in the MTG multiverse, as it were. If a character is about to die, and like your group is enjoying the character quite a large amount, instead of having them die, you can have you can say that their spark ignites, because most like as long as they are still alive, most normal races do have a spark, and you know, it could say that, you know, their spark ignited and they do end up planeswalking away, because the first time that they do it, they don't have control.
Yeah.
And so they still get removed from the campaign, but their character isn't dead and is off somewhere, you know, learning about their new abilities and whatnot.
That's a possibility. If now that comes down to a DM. Do you allow for get out of death free mechanics or resurrection spells, reincarnation, and things like that? It would be a good consideration.
Oh, I mean, I wouldn't call it as a like a get out of death card per se. What I'd call it is that, you know, for a DM, it's like, look, you are gonna have to roll up a new character. That's just the thing that you're gonna have to do. You are gonna have to roll up a new character. That's gonna happen. And, you know, for all intents and purposes, your character is going to be considered dead, because 99.9% of normal people don't know about planeswalkers. And it could be that it's just like, no, your character's still alive. You can't play them because they're off somewhere else doing their own thing, and I'm like, multiplayer campaigns are going to be something that's really, really difficult to maintain. So it'd just be like, it's just like, your character's not dead. They're removed from the campaign just as they would have been if they died.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not going to give you the chance to bring them back in, because the time required to actually learn how to planeswalk properly it takes a long time. But what you could do is just like, your character gets out of death, but is still removed from the campaign in the same capacity as if they had died.
I understand.
Kind of like, I actually had this happen with one of my characters. She was a half angel, using the Asimar, and she was a actual full-on half angel, and she did die, but instead of staying, like, instead of dying, what happened was that her father, who was the angel half, basically came and retrieved her and was like, I'm taking her away now. And so while the character didn't die, the character was removed in the campaign.
That that makes sense. I get what you're saying.
Yeah, basically death without actually dying, as it were. And I mean that's a thing too, because the character is still alive. It could be that that, you know, in this kind of multiverse, if you decided to have a campaign set on a different plane using one of the plane shift supplements, say, or just as a random thing, Zendikar, or you decide to run Curse of Strahd and bolt it to Innistrad, for example, you could have your character be, you could play that character in that campaign with a differing stat set, or you could have them show up as an NPC.
Yeah.
As that the entire thing is just for the purposes of that campaign, they're dead, but they're not dead.
That makes sense, and I appreciate you taking the time to also explain it in that fashion where mechanically the character is not playable, but it's not kind of a cheesy, well, here's 500 gold pieces of the local temple and you just come back to life as if nothing happened and we're going to continue on our merry way. You are still facing a consequence of some kind.
Yes, and resurrection won't get you around it.
Yeah.
But no, just that was just something to something to consider in terms of dealing. Addressing DJ Delta's little post in the chat. It's very interesting concept, and if I was to run a proper Ravnica campaign, maybe I might have that happen for the first PC that they have. Is that you know, for the group, their first PC, if they were to die, they become a planeswalker instead and just disappear.
One of the last things that I specifically wanted to bring up with you in order to help us plan for what we're going to be doing over the course of the week. We've now made a setting, NPCs, we've attached emotional anchors, mechanics. We've talked about just a lot of stuff here. I would like some kind of a dungeon set up. And originally, when I was imagining the questions I was going to be asking you, because it's a quasi interview, also Lethality. I was thinking, oh, we're going to make a dungeon. Well, let's make a portion of the Dragon's Maze. That'd be fun. Although with the setting or the chronology, currently that's not opened up right now. It exists, for sure, but it's not there or known or accessible. So what if you were running this as a Ravnica campaign, and heck, don't let any of your other players see this, because maybe we can work on this and you can run this as a Ravnica campaign. If we were to make a dungeon, do you want to set it in a particular location? You could even have it be like an outdoor dungeon. We're already in the Undercity, so maybe there's just an abandoned part that has some monsters and molds and stuff. What would you like to do for a dungeon component?
Alright, so for a dungeon component, like, with the entire thing of the implicit maze, that entire thing was, you had to run between all the guild gates, and that would be less a dungeon and more a proper event, a proper event. Like
a race or a
event,
chase?
As it were. Yeah, more like a chase. For a dungeon, like for a proper dungeon, what I would do is, there are many buildings, and there's ratways of warrens and of passages used by the Dimir, and like you could set up several dungeons just using this massive webway of warrens filled with Dimir horrors. Say they need to somehow make their way to Duskholm, the Dimir guild hall, and they have to go through this massive webway of corridors and tunnels and aqueducts and stuff, just filled with monsters and traps.
Every game needs a sewer level, so
every game does need a sewer level. another way you could do it, like conversely, is that you could have them, you could actually have them moving through a chancery, one of the Azorius' chanceries. Like maybe their entire thing is that they need to infiltrate a court session. They need to get into a court session, and the Azorius love their labyrinths. They love their labyrinths and their confusing movement, confusing confusing hallways that all look the same and things like that. And that would be less monsters and more traps and hiding and things like that. And then you could go to maybe do something like hunting something through the Is-It steam vents. Maybe one of their elementals, one of their weirds, got out of containment, and they have to go hunt it down through the Is-It boiler works and steam vents and other such industrial which as I said, all of these areas have the capacity for both traps and monsters and other kinds of encounters as well.
Okay, so we have maybe like Demir sewers, and then for traps mixed, it would be Is-It steam pipes. Whoops. Okay, so depending on what kind of a dungeon we'd want to run, we can do a stealth, like a pure stealth dungeon. It could have traps, but maybe not lethal traps, but detection traps. You know, we're running some Metal Gear Solid espionage. We go through an Azorius Chantry. If we want to combat, we could go through Demir sewers or Golgari stuff, or you know, all sorts of stuff. You know, lurk and creep in the sewers and the tunnels. Or if we want a very trap heavy, or even one with puzzles, or it's kind of mixed with traps and creatures, we could go on a hunt through the Is-It steam pipes.
Yeah. Honestly, I actually have half a mind to make a dungeon for the Is-It steam pipes, like of their steam vents. Not to use specifically in a Ravnica campaign, just something like that in general for a more industrial campaign that I'm running. Because it provides all kinds of different challenges and places where all kinds of different classes can shine. So, for example, small gaps and deft maneuvering requirements and narrow movements are things that would work very, very well for rogues and monks and your other evasive types. The presence of metals and steams and fire and things like that would do well for your mages, your elementalists, things like that. And even for your bigger guys like your barbarians, your fighters, your paladins, you know, maybe that their challenges are the traps, and they shine where they get into, you know, small clearings with monsters, and being able to heavily trap in monsters in these small spaces via their intimidating presence, or just the fact that they're big, burly people with big weapons designed to hit people really, really hard.
Well, with that idea, I like that. Is that something, I don't know how much time you'd need to conceptualize that, but is that something that you would want to come back and present on Friday or Saturday? And even if you're making it for a generic kind of a steampunk or an industrial setting, would you want to come and we can give it an Is-It twist, or would you need more time? I don't want to voluntold you to do something, but if we're talking about it, would you like to come back?
It would probably take a little bit more time than that.
Sure, I understand.
Because I go pretty in depth into dungeon design when I get into it. But what I'll actually do is I'll probably post, like once I finish it, I'll actually probably post it in Project Workshop.
Oh, excellent! All right.
Yeah, that's a thing too. DJ Delta. Racial sizes and things like that too. You know, a small goblin walks down walks down one of the narrow steam-vented halls, and there's a hazard there of, well, a vent that blows out really, really hot steam that'll do some damage to a player, but because they're small, they can just walk under it. All that kind of stuff. Things that take, you know, racial size, class abilities, things like that, all into account, so that everyone, no matter what they're playing, gets a little bit of a chance to shine.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. I'm digging it. So what we'll do then, if that's something you'll work on in a medium or over some kind of a term, I can still come up with something and present it, as I do want to focus on Ravnica throughout the course of the week. So we're priming our ideas today, and then we have Thursday and Friday and maybe part of Saturday, because we kind of did a party review. There's only 2 people in this party, unless we assign an NPC or if we want to generate more characters. But I think keeping it with 2 players can do a couple things. You don't have to have 5 or 6 people to play a game of D&D. You can play D&D with a DM and 1 or 2 players. And so this will be a good example of that. And how you might scale things for a two-player adventure, or how you might approach it with a smaller party. As I kind of am giving a lesson in what do you do if you have 14 people sitting at your table with my Curse of Strahd run, as I write in my adventure diary for that.
Yeah.
So let's see. So tomorrow then, I guess tomorrow we can go through, and I have open in case we wanted to do it tonight here, but the DMG has a good way for you to take your ideas and to help refine them. For example, designing NPCs, or even designing or mapping dungeons. And so what we can do is take the next step. Today was the brainstorming session, and tomorrow we can start refining our ideas until we get a nice polished campaign to present on Saturday, along with any other content that we've generated over the course of the week.
Yeah.
So Lethality, I know it's we still have 20 minutes till 3. Not that I'm going to boot you out. You can linger around, but I know you did have to get going here. Kind of similar to our actual D&D timeline.
Yep. I might head off.
Sure.
Mainly because my fiance suggested to me through break that after I'm finished streaming that we should go out for dinner, and I actually agree with that idea. So
yeah.
So I'll probably go and do that.
Yeah. Tell her hi from all of us here. And thank you for letting us borrow you from her.
I'll make sure to let her know. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, you're very welcome. And for those of you who are out there, you know, even if you're a newbie, because look, I do look forward to discussing with McCoolman some beginner campaign strategy, and we'll do that in our next session. Or if you have a field of expertise in some way and you want to hop aboard and we can have these brainstorming sessions, let me help give you a microphone. Let's work together. Let's answer questions. Or if you are a newcomer to D&D and you're brave enough to step up, like McCoolman is willing to do, then I can put you on voice chat too, and we can help work through some things. So what I'll do, I guess I'll take another break, and here I will actually get some chips and salsa. So man, you can't do anything about it. And when we come back, McCoolman, if you wanted to hop into voice chat, we can do that, and we can help you flesh out your first campaign that you wish to present to your players. And this will still be chat interactive, so DJ, Pneumonica, Dez out there, anyone, if you have suggestions to help guide McCoolman as I offer prompts, and because McCoolman, I'm willing to help, but I'm also going to make your brain work a little bit too through this. I'm gonna challenge you and help you build a an idea base and a concept. So we'll let's meet back in 10 minutes. I have 2:43 on my end. Or it might as well just be like 2:45. So why don't we meet back here a little bit before 3 a.m. my time? And McCoolman, if you still have some time, you can get your ideas together, and then we'll hop into the project workshop voice chat, and we'll have a chat, and we'll help you build your first campaign. So everyone, Lethality, yet? Did you have any other?
No, I was just gonna say that as I said, thank you guys for humoring me, and I will see you guys next week, Tuesday, where we will continue the stream game.
Thank you very much. All right, everyone. I'll see you back here in 10. Be well.